Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Ryan. I am pleased to facilitate the meeting today and webinar on behalf of Florida Bicycle Association. It's been a really fantastic educational virtual signature series focusing on e-bikes. Today, we will be really honing in on e-bikes laws and enforcement. But first up for our presentation today, we have Clint Sandusky. He is a California retired law enforcement officer and bike cop with 23 years experience. He has experience with California Post as well as a bike patrol instructor for 26 years. He is an International Police Mountain Bike Association EBike Task Force member. He is also a cycling and traffic educator and advocator. He's a robust e-bike presenter and instructor. He is extremely well-versed in cyclist issues as well as advocacy and community topics. And he himself commutes, runs errands, trains, and races on an electric mountain bike. Clint Sandusky, please share your screen. We're pleased to hear your presentation today. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here, even though I'm far away on the other coast in sunny Southern California. And I do appreciate BA for taking this initiative and hosting this new and important topic of e-bikes. So e-bikes and and enforcement, not always a pleasant topic or action, but certainly a needed one. In this case, a Ohio State University student was pulled over by university police for going the wrong way. And I think that's real important. What I find interesting is on the other side, how law enforcement pulled over a motor vehicle. I think that's pretty equitable. And who doesn't get a smile on their face when they see this? So for today, my two topics are going to be on what law enforcement needs to know about e-bikes to properly enforce e-bike laws for the safety of all roadway users. Also, how law enforcement agencies in Florida have regulated or enforced e-bike use and the outcomes of those actions. I think we can all agree that traffic safety, and more specifically bicycle safety, has to be a balanced approach. It can't just be one or two of the E's. And of course, enforcement is part of that, as well as education. With all the E's, IPMBA, the International Police Mountain Bike Association, recently stated in an article on their website that law enforcement, especially bike officers, can and should play a role in all the E's. My friend Kirby Beck, who is a retired police officer, trainer for the International Police Mountain Bike Association, and leading expert on cycling and bicycle safety, recorded this presentation on what police need to learn about cycling. And you can find this linked on IM Traffic's website. And I think we can all agree, including law enforcement, that this is what law enforcement needs to know for educated and equitable enforcement. And Kirby, in one of his slides, tells us, what police need to learn. And I think now we can include e-bike laws to that. Also in his presentation, he says any time you're dealing with any kind of cycling issues or want to improve anything in cycling, especially out on the roads, you've got all these stakeholders that can get involved. And I'd like to highlight not only organizations like your own, but also, like I'd mentioned, police bike officers are a fantastic resource for you or any cyclist. Hey, because they're cyclists themselves and they understand the laws. With that, if you can get their leadership involved, because things tend to trickle down, and if you can find leadership that are actually cyclists, even better. Now, I got permission from IPMBA to share this, and this is a fantastic resource for you in Florida. And if you go to IPMBA's website under training, find an instructor, and punch in Florida, you'll find that there are 49 active police cyclist instructors in Florida. Reach out for them if you need any assistance with cycling or e-bikes. The other organization that's involved in Florida is the Law Enforcement Bicycle Association, and they have 6 instructors. So What law enforcement needs to know about e-bikes? Well, they first need to know what the legal definition of an e-bike is. And here's your Florida statute as listed below what an e-bike is. And it's quite similar to the 27 other states that have adopted People for Bikes refined definition of an e-bike. And this is all based on federal law. A good resource to keep on you when you're out there e-biking is People for Bikes Florida e-bike law guide that is also available in all other 49 states and the District of DC. But at some point, if your law enforcement isn't quite up to speed on the law enforcement or the laws regarding e-bikes, you may have to actually start giving them the statutes. And here's one of the statutes here in Florida. Also, make them aware that based on law, localities can restrict e-bike use. And here's an example from Nassau County, electric bike restrictions. I think it's important also that law enforcement and the general public know, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what is an e-bike, but they also need to know what an e-bike isn't. So an e-bike is not a moped. It's not a motor-driven cycle. It's not a motorcycle. And it's not even a gas-powered bicycle. And it's certainly not this. Now, this machine is actually being advertised and sold to law enforcement agencies in the United States. Now, this, what People for Bikes calls out-of-class electric vehicle, actually goes up to 50 miles an hour. It's got a 500-watt motor, and it weighs 154 pounds. So this is not a legal e-bike. Law enforcement and everybody needs to know the three classes of e-bikes: the user requirements, access requirements, equipment requirements. And as an example, every e-bike sold in the United States has to have some kind of motor disengagement system. So if you're riding a pedal assist only e-bike, all you have to do is stop pedaling and no more motor. If you're using a throttle on a class 2 e-bike, all you do is depress the brakes and the motor automatically disengages. Starting in January 1st of next year, all your e-bikes in Florida will have to have a label stating the class of the e-bike, the wattage of the motor, and the maximum speed. They probably already have it on there. I think it's important for law enforcement to also know, hey, persons riding legal e-bikes are not subject to all the below, including an electric bicycle is not a motor vehicle. Now, here's a big one: e-bike tuning. Number one, it's illegal and unsafe, and it will more than likely void your motor's warranty. And there's your Florida statute right there. So what e-bike tuning is the illegal modification or tampering with the motor to exceed its programmed speed. Not good for all us legal e-bike users and everybody else. So lastly, how law enforcement agencies in Florida have regulated or enforced e-bike use and the outcomes of those actions. And I would like to thank Maureen Becker, Executive Director of IPEMBA, for assisting me with this. I sent her questions and she reached out to all your Florida IPEMBA police cyclist instructors asking for response back, and I did get some response back. So here are the 5 questions, and I'll let you read these first ones real fast. And here are the last 2. Now, after this webinar, I will send the completed results of my informal survey to your association so they can post it. But just going back, and as an example, I got some wonderful responses back from a sergeant with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. She's actually with the Disney Springs bike unit, and they do ride e-bikes. So what a wonderful resource there. So as an example, question 1, I asked, are you familiar with Florida's new e-bike law? And they said yes. In fact, their agency received a legal bulletin update. So they all had to sign, all their sworn personnel. So they are aware of the e-bike laws. Question 3 was, are they conducting bicycle enforcement on e-bikes? And they said yes, as the situation presents itself. So those are just some examples. Like I said, I will send to Angela and your association the completed results, which I think you'll find interesting. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to send it back to Angela and Julie. Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you so much, Clint. And Clint will be around for the questions and answers session at the end of the webinar. So please do stick around to answer any questions you have of Clint.